France has just recorded 335,000 new COVID cases, a new daily record for Europe, with other European countries also seeing records broken. The French President Emmanuel Macron has warned he intends to make life difficult for unvaccinated people in France. Novak Djokovic has landed in Melbourne, where he's set to defend his Australian Open title, but a political row over his COVID vaccine status could lead to him being sent home. The president of Kazakhstan has declared a state of emergency across the country. It's after violent protests broke out when a cap on fuel prices was scrapped. Protesters have seized the international airport. And on the eve of the anniversary of the riot at the US Capitol in Washington, the Justice Department is giving an update into its criminal investigation and its particular focus on those who took part.
We start here in Japan, where officials are monitoring a rapid spread of coronavirus infections. Okinawa confirmed 623 new cases on Wednesday, well over double the day before. And the southwestern prefecture is not the only area where tallies are rising. Okinawa was a hotspot earlier in the pandemic. This was the first time that the prefecture's daily tally topped 600 in more than 4 months. Officials there are considering whether to ask the central government to declare a quasi-emergency. That would allow Okinawa to introduce stricter antivirus measures. Tokyo also saw a spike in cases on Wednesday, reporting 390 new infections. The capital's daily tally almost quadrupled in the span of just 2 days. Across Japan, authorities confirmed more than 2,000 cases for the first time in more than 3 months. The spike is partly attributed to the Omicron variant. Japan's government is currently asking anyone infected with the strain to stay in hospital. Their close contacts are asked to isolate at designated facilities, but the government is easing the measure.
Local governments can change these rules if they confirm that there is a rapid spread of infection in their area, and if they expect the medical system and the work of public health officials will come under strain.
The official case counts do not include infections reported on U.S. military bases in Japan, which are seeing a surge in new cases. 182 people at the Marine Corps Air Station Iwakuni in Yamaguchi Prefecture were confirmed to be infected on Wednesday. Local officials say that's likely fueling the rapid spread of Omicron in the area. They plan to ask the central government to declare a quasi-emergency in the region. Elsewhere, 57 people at Yokota Air Base in Tokyo, 41 at Camp Fuji in Shizuoka Prefecture, and 16 at Sasebo Navy Base in Nagasaki Prefecture were confirmed to be infected. U.S. Marine Corps' Camp Hansen in Okinawa logged a major cluster of infections in December. The U.S. forces then revealed it did not require new personnel to be tested until at least 5 days after arriving in Japan. At the urging of Japan, the U.S. forces now require tests before service members leave the U.S. and immediately after they arrive in Japan. In Australia, there's also been a big rise in coronavirus cases over the new year, driven by the Omicron variant. The latest surge comes not long after the country began reopening its borders. On Wednesday, Australia reported a daily record of more than 60,000 new cases. The two most populous states, New South Wales and Victoria, accounted for most of them. Case numbers in New South Wales, where Sydney is located, rose over 100 times from what they were a month ago. The surge has put the health system under great pressure. Increased demand for testing is causing delays at clinics. Many people are being turned away.
I appreciate very much the patience that everyone is showing in lining up in those queues. Rest assured we're doing everything we can to put downward pressure on that system. We have a number of rapid antigen tests arriving as of next week.
For the next few weeks.
Prime Minister Scott Morrison held a national cabinet meeting on Wednesday. The government discussed plans to ensure adequate testing kits for the public to take pressure off the health system. The Japanese government says North Korea fired a suspected ballistic missile Wednesday morning. The launch is the first in 2 months. Japan's defense ministry says the projectile was fired just after 8 a.m. Japan time from an area inside North Korea. Initial estimates suggest the missile flew about 500 kilometers before falling into the Sea of Japan outside of Japan's exclusive economic zone. South Korean media reports raised the possibility that the latest launch was what North Korea claims is a hypersonic missile. Hypersonic missiles can travel more than 5 times the speed of sound and change trajectory in flight. Japanese Defense Minister Kishi Nobuo says the government will increase surveillance and become more vigilant.
The recent series of ballistic missile launches by North Korea pose serious challenges to Japan and to the entire international community.
The latest launch comes after a busy year for the North's missile program. North Korea has been pushing for a 5-year defense plan, which includes programs to develop a wide range of new types of missiles. An expert on North Korea says North Korea's missile tests have multiple aims.
Strengthening national defense and military capabilities is one. And I think the second point is that the North wants to make its presence felt by the United States and South Korea and make them think they need to negotiate with the North.
Isozaki added it's likely that the North will continue missile launch tests as its leader Kim Jong-un reiterates his determination to strengthen national defense capabilities. This highlights the difficult security environment around Japan. The Japanese government says its foreign and defense ministers will hold a video teleconference with their U.S. counterparts on Friday morning Japan time. The meeting was changed to online following a COVID-19 resurgence in the U.S. Japanese Foreign Minister Hayashi Yoshimasa and Defense Minister Kishi Nobuo will participate in the 2+2 talks with U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. U.S. Ambassador to Japan Rahm Emanuel will also attend the conference. They're expected to discuss cooperation toward achieving a free and open Indo-Pacific, as well as strengthening the deterrence and response capabilities of the Japan-U.S. alliance. They'll also confirm their agreement that Japan will shoulder more of the costs of stationing U.S. troops in the country. Japan and Australia are set to sign a treaty on Thursday for stronger defense and security ties. Prime Minister Kishida Fumio will meet with his counterpart Scott Morrison in a virtual summit. In a statement, Morrison said the pact will underpin greater practical engagement between the two countries' defense forces. He added it'll show their commitment to work together on shared strategic security challenges and for a secure and stable Indo-Pacific. Japan and Australia are already part of the so-called Quad Alliance, which includes the U.S. and India. The latest pact comes as countries around the region seek ways to respond to China's increasing maritime activities. Mass protests in Kazakhstan continue over soaring fuel prices. The unrest has caused the government's resignation amid increasing turmoil. Demonstrations have spread to the capital Nur-Sultan and the largest city of Almaty. In the western province of Mangistau, protesters took to the streets on Sunday after fuel prices shot up on January 1st. Kazakhstan's Interior Ministry said more than 200 people have been detained and injuries are reported. President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev announced on Wednesday that he had accepted the resignation of the government. Reuters reported that the government's lifting of a price cap on gas on the first day of the year sent the cost of vehicle fuels and other petroleum products soaring. In a bid to bring the situation under control, the government has declared a state of emergency with measures such as curfews in place in areas including Almaty. The Central Asian country's reserves of oil and other natural resources have promoted economic growth. But the income gap between poor and wealthy people has widened, leaving some people increasingly frustrated with the government. Electric vehicle manufacturer Tesla has drawn widespread criticism from human rights activists and others in the U.S. for opening a showroom in China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. Tesla announced on its Chinese social media account on New Year's Eve that it opened a showroom in Urumqi, the regional capital. The company posted photos from the opening event. The United States has been pressuring China over human rights issues in Xinjiang. U.S. Congress passed legislation last month to ban imports of products believed to have been made by forced labor in the region. Business groups and Muslim activists in the U.S. are lashing out at the automaker. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said on Tuesday that she cannot discuss the specific situation of one company, but she said, as a general matter, we believe the private sector should oppose China's human rights abuses and genocide in Xinjiang. Both China and the U.S. are key markets for Tesla. The company has not commented on the criticism. A bitter blast brought blizzards into eastern areas of Russia. Our meteorologist Sayaka Mori shows us the situation and has the forecast in World Weather.
Hello there. Winter is in full force in Far East Russia. In the Sakhalin region, gusts were nearly 130 kilometers per hour on Tuesday. Heavy snow fell there, so the combination caused blizzard conditions. Take a look at this footage from the area. The storms hampered traffic across the Sakhalin region. 5 road sections were completely blocked. The extreme weather is not unusual, in fact, for Siberia in the winter. Some flights were grounded, but most flights flew on schedule. Blowing snow hit northern Japan as well. Sukayu had seen 70 centimeters of snow in 48 hours. Conditions are improving in northern Japan, but there is a low-pressure system to the south of the country. This low will cause snowfall along the Pacific side. So we might see up to 15 centimeters of snow in places like Kyushu and Shikoku in the mountainous locations. And even Tokyo might see some snow flurries on Thursday. The daytime high will likely only 4 degrees. It's going to be the coldest day of the season so far, so do bundle up. And it'll be right at the freezing point in Sapporo during the day on Thursday. Dangerously cold weather is gripping Canada. An extreme cold warning is in place in places like British Columbia as well as Alberta. Some of the cold air is invading the United States. The isobars are very close to each other. That means powerful winds are blowing. So we have a blizzard warning in place in places like the Northern Plains as well as Minnesota. Now, these are your expected morning lows for the next 3 days. Helena could see minus 21. The area will see a significant warm-up, though, and as we go into Friday, Minneapolis, Chicago, and Winnipeg will see extremely low temperatures, especially on your Friday morning. With strong winds, you could feel much colder than these actual numbers. If a wind chill is minus 40 degrees or so, frostbite could happen within 10 minutes or so. So cover your skin to avoid a frostbite. That's it for me. Have a nice day.
Good morning. I'm Savannah Sellers. Joe is off this morning. Right now on Morning News Now, crisis point. Frustration at a fever pitch nearly 2 years into the pandemic. The U.S. now averaging more than 500,000 new COVID cases per day. With the fast-spreading Omicron strain leading the surge, and hospitals are being pushed to the brink once again. We'll take you to one of the areas hardest hit. Plus, President Biden doubling down on the push for vaccinations, urging Americans to protect themselves by getting the shot. More of his message and the efforts to provide free at-home tests to every American. And the CDC updating its guidance once again when it comes to isolation for those with COVID but without symptoms. We have team coverage with more on the fallout, the fears, and what the experts want you to know to stay safe. School showdown developing overnight. COVID concerns causing controversy at Chicago's public schools. This morning, classes canceled after teachers vote to return to remote learning until case numbers go down. Details on the talks now underway between the union and the city. Capitol concerns heightened security on Capitol Hill as lawmakers prepare to mark 1 year since the January 6th insurrection. Now, law enforcement reflecting on what's changed and what still needs to change.
We're right now probably 200 officers below what we had pre-January 6th, and we're 400 below what we really need.
Details on what's being done to prevent a repeat of last year's riot. And snow problem. From whiteout conditions to the bitter cold, extreme winter weather is creating dangerous conditions for people all over the country. We'll share some tips on what you can do to stay safe all season long.